Okay, here we are at the beginning of turn 5. Things are not looking good for our counselors. Everyone is injured. Sherry, Karen, Kevin can only move 1 space. CJ can only move 2 spaces. We only have 2 weapons. We're running out of survival cards to use. It's just not going well. But we gotta see if we can somehow pull this out. Maybe find something that can help us. We're going to start with Sherry, who's over here in the commons. Sherry can only move 1. She's not going to get very far, but I'll move her 1 space, draw a cabin card, and she found a flashlight. Any phase, you may look at a face-down objective within 2 spaces. After looking 3 times, discard the flashlight. Requires a single hand, so I'll go ahead and equip that card on Sherry. And then when I move close enough to within 2 spaces of that objective, I'll take a look at it and see what it is and see if it's worth going for. Now we'll go ahead and move on to Karen. So Karen is hurt pretty bad too. We can only move her 1 space. I'm going to move her closer to this objective here. Draw a cabin card, and she found a camper. She found her little brother, Toby. Toby has a light source. While Toby is in your care, you cannot be horrified or lost. Toby cannot be passed to another counselor. If Toby is killed, discard all your survival cards in your grief, and you are also horrified. So, Karen has found her little brother Toby, who has a flashlight and keeps her from being horrified and lost. So, I'll go ahead and put this card over there with Karen. And now that's the end of Karen's turn. She did pick up a counselor, and she has that special skill of mentor that allows campers in her care to reroll their special abilities, but Toby doesn't have a special ability that he rolls dice for. His are all passive. So now we move on to Kevin, who is injured and can only move 1, and I'm going to leave him here with Karen. Strength in numbers. Draw a cabin card. And it is a butcher knife. You may re-roll your butcher knife result once per fight. You must accept the second roll. So it's a single-handed weapon that also attacks on a 6. So, okay, I got the camera to focus properly. And I'm going to go ahead and at the end of my turn, I'm going to give the butcher knife to Karen so she has a weapon. You can trade freely with players in the same space as you at the end of your turn. So I'm going to go ahead and give Karen the butcher knife. Karen has a knife now. And now we move on to CJ, who can still move 2, which is not that good, but I'm going to go ahead and risk it and move him up here because CJ has the set of keys. I'm going to have him unlock that door, and we'll have him end his movement phase there. And instead of drawing a cabin card, he's going to turn over this objective. And oh yes, we got lucky. We have a crank, which means we have keys, the crank, and we have a battery, which means we have all the objectives needed to go to the Ranger Tower. But the Ranger Tower is way over here, and we're all hurt really bad. But we got to try and make it. Let's see if we can do it. Now it's Otis's stalking phase, and he is currently 3 spaces away from CJ and 3 spaces away from Kevin and Karen. So when Otis is tied in distance, the first tiebreaker is he's going to target the cabin with the fewest campers counselors or cameos in it. And that's definitely up here with CJ, because with Kevin, Karen, and her brother, there's 3 there and 1 there, so he's going that direction. So Otis stalks 2, can't quite make it to him, but he's got him pinned in. Now we'll move on to our next turn. Okay, we're here with turn 6, and we have the items we need to make it to the Ranger Tower finale. Now we have to get to the space where the arrow is with all the items in that space. Then anyone that's in this cabin can go to the finale. Right now CJ actually has all 3 items in his own possession, so if he were to make it there, he could go ahead and leave without anybody else and try and make it on his own. But let's see if the others can make it to him. First we have Sherry over here in the commons. She's injured and can only move 1. So we're going to move her 1 step closer to that Ranger Tower and draw a cabin card. And Sherry draws an Otis Strikes card. But even though Sherry drew this Otis Strikes card, Karen was holding on to the killer's obsession, which means next time an Otis Strikes card is drawn, Otis strikes her space instead. But if she survives the attack, she'll get a survival card. So hopefully she survives the attack. So instead of going over here to Sherry, Otis is going to strike the space here with Karen and Kevin. Now for this fight, we're definitely going to let Karen go first because she has the butcher knife. And the butcher knife allows you to re-roll your result once per fight. So she essentially gets 2 chances at it. But she has to take her second roll. So she gets to roll on a 6-sided dice. And I don't think we have any cards that can help us in this situation. So Karen rolls a 5. That's a strong roll. I'm going to keep it. I don't want to risk going any lower. So she rolls a 5 with the butcher knife, and Otis gets a 5. That is unfortunate for Karen. That's a tie. And Otis wins the ties. Before I assign damage, let me check again just to make sure I don't have any cards that can help. No luck in the card department. So Karen is going to take another damage. She's 1 step away from the skull, which means she is dead. And it would add another body to the pile and another notch in the belt for Otis. But seeing that she's almost dead and that adrenaline is pumping, Karen's movement is now up to 3 again. So we'll go ahead and move Karen her 2 panic. So Karen can move 2 for her panic. So let's get her headed towards the Ranger finale. She's not going to be able to go through that locked door. So we'll move her 2 and let Kevin take a shot at Otis. Alright, Kevin's going to take a shot at Otis with his crowbar, and he uses a 6-sided die. So Kevin rolls a 2. Man, Kevin is not doing good. Well, there's always a chance. Otis rolls a 1. Kevin got lucky. So Kevin successfully fended off Otis, which means it knocks Otis off the board and he will be lurking. Well, now that we've successfully knocked Otis off the board, we need to make a run for it. And now that all happened on Sherry's turn, so now it's Karen, who, because of her wound, can move 3. So we're going to move her a few more steps closer to the Ranger Tower. draw a cabin card, and she's got a shard of glass. If you win a fight with the shard of glass, receive 1 injury. Well, that's not a useful weapon for Karen because she can only take 1 more wound. I'll put it on there just in case it's desperation and she needs to use it. It'll kill her, but maybe she'll save everybody else in the process. And then we'll move on to Kevin's turn. Alright, Kevin's gonna move. He can still only move 1, so we'll have him move 1. And instead of drawing a cabin card, I will have him turn over the object token. And it is a first aid station. At the end of the turn, heal 2. Well, that is good news for Kevin. So hopefully this is a positive sign and we're heading towards something good in this finale. So let's go ahead and heal Kevin his 2 at the end of his turn. Well, things are looking a little bit better. Kevin heals 2 wounds. That moves him back to his maximum starting health, and he can now move 3 again. Let's move on to CJ. So right now we got CJ way up there at the top of the board, about as far away as you can get from where he needs to be. He can still move 2, so we might end up actually using that sprinter thing that allows him to discard a survival card and move 1 more space, but we don't need to do that yet. He'll move 2, draw a cabin card. Oh, and it's an environment. Heavy fog. While the heavy fog is in play, counselors are unable to play survival cards. Well, that's a problem. At the end of 1 full round, roll a 4-sided die, and this will essentially see if the heavy fog stays or lifts. So 1 full round means not until the end of the end of CJ's next turn will we be able to attempt to get rid of this heavy fog, and until then none of us can use survival cards. It's Otis's stock phase and he's lurking off the board, so we'll have to see where Otis shows back up. Hopefully it's nice and far from us. It is the 10. The 10 is about as bad as things could have got for us because the 10 is right here at Morris's office. And he has a stock of 2, which means his closest victim is Sherry, which he will now attack. Too bad for Sherry, she doesn't have a weapon. She's automatically going to take some damage from Otis. Now Sherry is only 1 step above dying, but on the bright side, she can move 2 again. And now she will panic 3. Panicking 3, and she can use the nature trails. That gets her right to where she needs to be for the Ranger finale. She doesn't have any items, so she's at the mercy of everyone else showing up to try and help her. That will end Otis's stock phase, and now we move on to our next turn.